Hello, everyone. Welcome back to St. Louis Teens, and welcome back to our series on Champions for Teens, which features lawmakers and leaders working with teens in their community. We are here today with Missouri State Senator Brian Williams for District 14, covering municipalities in University City, Ferguson, Normandy, Bridgeton, and Hazelwood. Senator Williams, we appreciate your efforts in helping us navigate these difficult times, working with children and youth issues, small businesses, economy, and police reform. Thank you so much for your service.
Oh, no, thank you. I appreciate you having me on. It's always good to, one, have a conversation about what's happening in our region and throughout our state, but most importantly, being able to just talk to the younger generation about just things that are happening and challenges and how do we work through them and most importantly, how I could continue to be a leader in our community and throughout our state. So I'm glad to be here.
And Senator Williams, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what inspired you to go into public service and become that leader? And how has your journey been like so far?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for the question. And again, thank you for having me on. So I grew up in Ferguson, Missouri, and I was the oldest child of a single mom. And, as a young person growing up in our community, I saw a lot of people who was dealt a bad hand and they just didn't have a fair opportunity. Things like institutional racism, generational poverty, a school system that seemed to push people out rather than lift them up. And as a young man, my mother and my grandmother taught me that if I saw problems in our community or throughout our state, then I needed to step up and take responsibility to be a part of the fix and do what I can to try to make a change. So I became interested in politics and government. And throughout that process, I realized that I cared deeply about big issues that was facing our neighborhoods, things like healthcare, jobs, social justice. So, simply put, I was interested in making the world a better place around me. And I knew I had to get off the sideline in order to do that.
And I know it can be difficult, but can you share with us your most favorite part about your job?
Well, after graduating from Clearly High School, I went off to college and ended up getting a master's degree at Washington University. So, just studying government and things like public health policy, it led me to work several years as a congressional staffer. And I worked for our local congressman, Lacey Clay. And I had an opportunity to work very close with President Obama's administration and roll out the Affordable Care Act marketplace right here in Missouri, which was really cool. And then, of course, in 2018, I ran for state senate and ran in a primary against two state representatives. And I was very fortunate to win. Now I serve as the only Black man in the Missouri Senate and one of the youngest in the Missouri Senate. One of my favorite parts of my job is probably listening to people in the community, having conversations like what we're doing right now, doing everything I can to find solutions for different challenges that we face. And there's a lot that we face right here in Missouri. There's never enough time in the day to do everything that I hope to do to help people around me. But, it's true as a state senator that, you're a student and you're just working hard to find solutions. And, you must set your priorities and do the best that you can with the time that you have. And it's difficult, but, we make it work. So one of my priorities is to meet with as many constituents as possible, share my ideas, hear their concerns. And that's why I'm glad to be speaking with you and your viewers today.
And Senator Williams, you are actively involved with children's and youth causes through your bills, and you're on the board for the People's Health Center and the Crisis Nursery. What inspired you to work with teens in your community, and what is one of the most memorable moments of your interactions with teens?
Well, I'll tell you this, it's been very interesting lately. I spent the last several weeks at marches and rallies, protests across Missouri, from St. Louis to Springfield, Missouri to Jefferson City. And, young people see challenges in our community, and many adults simply just don't see it. So, or just won't look at it sometimes. So as individuals, you all have the power to achieve great things in your own lives. And, as a generation, you have the power to just, I guess, achieve and even greater things that our state and nation hasn't done yet. And I think just being able to, I guess, be a part of that and be able to see how our country's moving in a completely different direction than it has for the previous 400 years has been something that's been really cool.
And you talk about your interactions with teens and how they often are able to see things that adults may not see or have a different perspective. So, how do you think that more policymakers, leaders, and members of Congress can implement some of the things that you were able to do and be more interactive with teens in their community and develop rich and meaningful partnerships with them?
Well, I mean, it's simple. You can't lead a community that you're never in. So if you're never in the community, it's very difficult to lead. Whether a person serves on a school board, the state senate, or the highest halls of government, they must be in their communities and have open minds and open hearts. So just, I keep sending invitations and emails and tweets to any leader that needs to hear from you. Reading all those messages and letters is a big part of my job. So it's true for most elected officials. And I can tell you honestly, it does make a difference. You sent me an email and, I received it, and I knew it was important to have this conversation with you because not only do I value talking about pressing issues, but I also think that it's important that we engage everyone in the community, regardless of who they are or how old or young they are. And that's why I'm here today.
And Senator Williams, you're talking about, being involved in the community, and you were instrumental in several bills for the betterment of our community, which, would not be possible if you weren't actively involved with it. And from your experience from the time of the Ferguson movement in 2014 till now, did our country make any progress, be it in terms of policy or in executing any other solution? And what do you think worked and what do you think did not work?
Well, I'm only one of only 8 Democrats in the Missouri State Senate. So our party's outnumbered 2-1. And I'm one of the only handful of areas. So from a urban area, I'm the only Black man. And to get anything done, I have to work with people who didn't grow up like us, who don't live in the city like ours, who don't always have the same vision for the future of our state like we do. It'd be easy to retreat into these differences and draw lines around every group, but I refuse to work with anyone who isn't in lockstep with me or our party. But gridlock doesn't move us forward. And I think that's what we have to keep in mind. And gridlock doesn't make Missouri better. So you have to rise above the gridlock, which I do every day. Find that common good, work for the common good. And it's hard, but at the end of the day, it's worth it. So the more I can share my experiences and insights with people who grew up totally different than me, the better chance I have of opening their eyes and changing their minds on issues like police reform, discrimination, generational poverty, healthcare for working people. So, just continuing to have that conversation and rise above that disagreements has been something that has allowed me to be very successful in Missouri Senate.
And, one of the things you just sort of talked about was the racial gaps and the policing issues at hand. And one powerful solution that you propose is to strengthen the relationship between law enforcement and the citizens and to not defund the police. Can you tell us more about your vision for police reform and ending the racial gap?
Yeah, so as a state senator, I want to make sure that each community and every street is a good, safe place for people to raise their families and live their dreams. And I think that we can do this by ending gun violence and rebuilding the trust between the police and the communities that we serve. George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Michael Brown, countless other Black men and women should still be alive today. And we can't bring them back, and we can't prevent We can prevent further deaths by passing police reforms that protect Missourians. That's why I'll be filing legislation to ban chokeholds, require the use of body cameras for officers executing search warrants, empower the Missouri General's Office to refer cases for police misconduct for prosecution. America's calling for change, and I believe this legislation would answer the call. And most importantly, I think it'll help save lives and keep majority of our community safe. And it isn't an us versus them situation. So it's not us versus the police. This is a broad bipartisan support for police reform. And, I believe that the overwhelming public support for police reform, and there's a huge majority of police that'll welcome these reforms as well. So we need to weed out the bad apples and stop allowing that subculture of bad policing to hurt the profession. And unfortunately, our governor's not on board yet, but once we have a governor who's willing to tackle this issue, we can achieve real change.
And in your opinion, what is the outlook for the future, particularly for teens, and how can we be more involved and better prepared?
My advice to teens is you don't have to wait until you're an elected official to bring change, period. To be able to make change to our laws and our communities. I spent the last few weeks at marches and rallies, as I told you earlier, all across the state. And there's a movement underway that I'm excited about that's driven largely by young people who know that our nation can be a better, safer place for everyone. And if you've seen these images on your TV or your phone, and you wondered how to get involved, the answer is simple: just show up, just like you are today. Speak out, and when you're old enough to vote, make sure you cast a ballot for the type of America that you want for yourselves and your generation. And if you're not old enough to vote, I'm sure you have friends who are, or relatives that are. Tell them to cast a ballot as if their future depended on it, because it does. And you all are young adults now, so that means that freedoms and more responsibilities. One of the most important responsibilities that I think you have is to be an active, engaged citizen. So no more sitting on the sideline, teens. No more expecting someone else to steer the ship. And if you ever felt like your city or your state or our nation is headed in the wrong direction, the good news is that you can help steer that ship back to a better horizon. And I believe that right now your hands is on the wheel, and only you and your duty to vote. And when you're old enough, make sure that your friends are who are old enough to vote too. In 2016, something that was really interesting to me was 46% of young people 18 to 29 years old voted. That means that more than half of the young people who could vote didn't vote. They sat on the sidelines. So this year, we need everyone who can vote to go and vote in August and in November. And that starts by getting registered to vote. You don't need to be 18 to register, but you can register as soon as 6 months before your 18th birthday. So for the big election in November, with us having a presidential election, as you all know, there'll be several statewide and legislative races. And I believe the deadline to register to vote in November is October 7th. So if you won't be eligible to vote this year, you can still get involved. Find a candidate that inspire you, volunteer, help out. And that's what I did all these years ago, and I continue to do now. And I'm confident, had I not had an opportunity to work with Congressman Clay, had I not had an opportunity to be a part of groups just like this one here, with teens that are being actively and civically engaged, there's no way that I would be where I am today serving as a state senator.
Senator Williams, thank you so much for investing your time and resources in our community, our teens, and the value that they bring to our future. And thank you so much for your time today and answering all of our questions.
No, my pleasure. And please make sure everyone go and follow me on Instagram. I'm on there. Or if you're on Twitter, you can find me on Twitter at Brian Williams MO. But keep in touch. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to find me on social media or email my office. Or if there's anything you want to get involved in, or if you ever want to learn more about just how you can do more in the community, just always reach out. Just know I got you back, and I'm in full support of you, and I can't wait to all be able to meet each other once things get better and the pandemic calms down. So thank you for having me. Sri, thank you for what you do, and it was great to be on and talking to you about issues in Missouri.
Thank you so much.